Hello, my name is Hannah Donner and I'm 22 years old. Before I talk more about my 22-year-old self, I would like to introduce you to 17-year-old Hannah. Hannah was a senior in high school who, while very ambitious, had generally no idea of where she would end up after her high school graduation. Would she be attending a four-year university, going directly into the workforce? Exactly what would her identity be after high school graduation? Hannah really had no idea, and the only concrete thing that she knew about herself was that she loved to play volleyball. And with her volleyball team, she spent the summer working hard to create a cohesive and happy season. Aside from volleyball, Hannah enjoyed advocating for others and sticking up for them in their times of need. She used her voice to stand up for herself and those in hardship. However, on September 23, 2016, Hannah's voice and drive was taken from her when she fell asleep at the wheel and her car struck a tree. The car hit at the center of the license plate and her airbags did not deploy. And this time was very scary for Hannah and her family. As you can imagine, the injuries were extensive. She had many broken bones to her face and her leg and foot. Aside from the bone breakages, she had lung damage and a brain bleed in her tentorium, which causes mood change and memory loss. When Hannah was removed from the car on the night of the accident, she was given CPR for 8 minutes because her heart had stopped beating. After she was resuscitated, she was airlifted by helicopter to K. Hovnanian Children's Hospital's Trauma Center in Neptune, New Jersey, where she spent the next upcoming weeks in a coma. While Hannah was in the hospital, the support that she received from the outside community was overwhelming. People that she didn't know had come to visit and share their condolences and good wishes with the family. And then, of course, her friends and family did not leave her side. However, this positive notion at her side, when Hannah woke up from the coma, she was just more lost than she was before. Aside from now trying to figure out who she would be, she had to understand what had happened. Would she recover? Would she ever fully get back to who she was? There were so many unknown questions and much uncertainty at this time. When Hannah went home from the hospital, it was a very sad and hard time. As a senior in high school, she couldn't drive or go to school, she couldn't see her friends, and she couldn't go to sporting events or play with her team. It was very upsetting for her and her family. However, the support from the community was uplifting and inspiring. For example, her volleyball team raised money for her and helped her in buying a dog for her family, which that inspired Hannah as one of the main things in her recovery. Another happy moment for Hannah during this time was when she was asked to drop the ceremonial first puck in the ice hockey game for Central Regional High School where she attended. The school honored her at the ice rink, and it was symbolic for Hannah that she decided in this moment that she would take hold of her recovery period, and it was up to her. Almost exactly 2 months after the car accident, Hannah had a doctor's appointment at her neurologist. She went into this appointment with hopes maybe she can resume her everyday life. Maybe she could go back to school. Maybe she could start driving soon. All of the upcoming wishes, Hannah was hoping that she could clear out in the open with her doctor that day. Her doctor turned to her confidently at the end of the appointment and said, "I think you can go back to school in January, Hannah." And she was very upset. January? It's only November. And she felt impatient, and she spent the rest of the time with the doctor negotiating. She wanted to go back the next day. She wanted to take hold of her recovery. And she turned and she fought for it, and she didn't go back to school in January or in December, but she went back to school the very next day. And that was the first time that I, Hannah, felt like myself again since that accident. The next day when I returned to school, while I was very excited, I quickly became overwhelmed, and it was an eye-opener that things would not be as easy as I expected in this recovery time. For example, things like the school bell and the bright lights, everything was very frustrating for me. I hadn't been living like that in the last few months. I had much support from my peers and faculty running up to me asking how I was doing, but it was quickly overwhelming for me and I became very frustrated. It was an eye-opener. It would take a lot longer to recover than I expected. And then during this time, it was just focused on recovering and my education for the remainder of my senior year. At the time of my graduation, however, I began to feel nostalgic or upset. How could I move on into college career without completing this journey? I needed to do something to make myself feel better. What could I do at this time to make my journey feel complete? And I decided after a long thought and speaking with my family that I needed to say thank you to the hospital. Not only did they save my life on a medical level, they gave me another opportunity to find out who I am, to answer those questions that I had as a 17-year-old. They gave me that opportunity. And they may not even have noticed, but it was more than just saving my life. So when I attended the College of New Jersey during my first year, I was at a meeting where the ceiling tiles were painted in an elementary school art room with just happy messages. And I said, oh, I have to do that. That's what I have to do. I'm going to transform the hospital, the physical building itself. So I reach out to the members of the Coma Children's Hospital Child Life Specialist Department. And I say, can I come in for a meeting? And I go in and we're discussing the logistics and I'm very excited. I think they're enjoying the idea. And they turn to me and they say, okay, Hannah, we'll give you 12 ceiling tiles. And then in that moment, for me, the words 12 and January became synonymous. No, I didn't want 12. I wanted more like 1,200. I wanted to make a difference and show these people that you can be inspired in a bad situation like this, like I was, by my team and my family and my community. So luckily, my negotiation skills kicked in once again. And I argued long enough with the hospital that they have given me as many ceiling tiles as I've needed, hundreds at that moment. I returned home that day and began planning the first event of Paint It Forward, which is my initiative to fill the hospital at Coma Children's Hospital with ceiling tiles with inspiring and happy messages for the patients and their family and the hospital community itself. I just wanted to transform the hospital into something that could be inspiring and even distracting for the patients that are in a horrible situation. And I quickly realized at my first event, which was held here at the College of New Jersey through the Best Buddies program, that many of the participants had the same goal as me, to benefit one person's life at a time. Originally, I felt awkward asking people to paint something and then return it without getting anything in return themselves. It was awkward for me to ask these people for so much, but I quickly found out that they wanted to help others. They had the exact same goal as me, which that was inspiring in itself. Now I want to speak about some of my specifically favorite ceiling tiles. These two tiles here are painted by a couple who reached out to me after the ceiling tile event erupted at the College of New Jersey, and they asked for 2 ceiling tiles. And the one on the left is a famous Dr. Seuss quote that reads, "Sometimes life is bumpy and blue, filled with gobs of goo gunk and sticky ick stew. But you'll find your way and you'll pull yourself through. You're stupendously strong, but mostly you're you." And then the ceiling tile on the right is a beautiful image of the galaxy that was painted as a distraction for children in terrible or traumatic situations like myself. I quickly found that these ceiling tiles were not only for the patients, but they were also meaningful to be painted for the people, all of the participants themselves. And this next ceiling tile was painted by my brother, who is the world's biggest Harry Potter fan. The quote reads, "It matters not what someone is born, but what they grow to be." And that, I think, is perfect for someone in the situation that I was in. It doesn't matter where you are at that moment, but it matters how you pull yourself out and how you grow after this. And while this ceiling tile was simply just painted because my brother loves Harry Potter and he thought the children would like it in the hospital, it could be an instrumental moment for someone looking up at that tile and say, hey, you're right, this doesn't matter where I am now. I'm just going to move forward and I'm going to grow, just as 17-year-old Hannah did. And this next ceiling tile was painted by me at the College of New Jersey at our first large event. It reads, "If it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you." And while 17-year-old Hannah may not have understood the weight of these words, 22-year-old Hannah does. I didn't necessarily change through this process, but I grew into this new person that I am today. And I'm proud of this person, but I would also identify as 17-year-old Hannah. When I described 17-year-old Hannah, I said she was ambitious, but had no real plan about who she would be after graduation. And I could say the same exact thing for myself now, except that I know how meaningful that it is to help others in your own recovery. I also know that I had what it took to get through what I was going through. And I find that it's synonymous with most people. You have what it takes to get through what you're going through. And now I want to leave you with my very favorite ceiling tile, which was painted by my roommate and good friend, Rachel. The tile simply reads, "You are strong, full speed, no fear." Rachel is on the TCNJ field hockey team, and during her season, before each game, her dad always sends her something before each game to give her motivation and to get her in the right mindset before she steps onto the field. This phrase, full speed, no fear, was hanging up in our college dorm for the entire freshman year. And while it may have been a nice reminder of her dad or an athletic motivator for Rachel, for me, it's how I view myself and it's how I viewed my recovery. I went into that recovery at full speed, no fear, when I started to take hold of my life again, that first day at the neurologist appointment. And I think that is how everyone should proceed into their lives. Whatever their bad situation is, whatever their situation is overall, you should proceed into it at full speed with absolutely no fear. And you already have the strength to do so. Thank you.